Well, here we're looking at Celgene, and this is one that I felt was going to do rather well. And you know, this is really, I think, has an opportunity to kind of make a good move if it can get up and over this 129. That's going to be really crucial. We talked about that. You could see the PowerPoint line. Those that went to the video for the webinar understand, kind of what we're looking at here. I think at least it should help a great deal. What we're seeing too, there's a lot going on, but let me just kind of simplify. We're going to start to pull some things. Okay, first things first. What I wanted to do was kind of show at least this a little bit more, the PowerPoint a little more faded, so it's easier to kind of see where we're at with it. You could still see it hold the line here, and you could see the midpoint right here, the midpoint here, and the horizontal line. But it does look like it could try to make that move. Now, what's also interesting here is our our lines, our bands here. You could see that it's starting to still hold the range bands, and also from the high range it also is, and that's 127. So basically 128. We know we need to break that first, but as long as we can kind of keep this angle, we keep it above this the 123.50 level. That will help. Now, the thing about what people fail to realize with this PowerPoint is it also gives you a lot of great, between these, what I have set up, it really gives you a great feel for where support and resistance will be or could be, and where price changes will be. I've talked to the, people saw it in the video. I also offered some time those that wanted to get this Market Analyst 8 on board. Kind of surprised that they didn't. But, I guess their loss. Actually, I showed my son today, a matter of fact, using calculations to be able to forecast the future low. We did it in wheat, 30-year, a 30-year chart, and he actually forecasted the low where it would be, 30 years, in the past. So, and then you could see why it was in the future, where it was at. And that was the kind of things I was going to try to show some people, but evidently that didn't, people weren't interested in that. I'm sorry they weren't. I had a lot of things I wanted to share them. Some people will see the level of, analysis I've been doing on my my proprietary things that I just can't allow to be out there just yet, because the book is not released. When it is, people really see that, and I can kind of take it a little bit further from that. But for right now, you could see we're seeing a trend line right here that's kind of holding some of that data in, but you kind of also get that impression that maybe, and I don't like to use these terms too much because they can really get overdone, but inverted head and shoulder patterns, this is a lot of times indicative of that. If it's going to really continue to keep this trend in this kind of triangle and break to the upside, that's kind of indicative of what you might see. So this is why it might make sense to go in there, and why we are. So you could see today's trading range was around this, opened up at 127, hit the high of 127.50. So you could see it kind of was a little overextended, and so you kind of want to wait for stuff like that. When you see it kind of doing that, that your prior high was 127.50. So if you're opening up at 127.20, you just want to see if they take out the prior high, if you're going to start to bite at that range. It might make sense to wait, and that's what happens when it doesn't do it. You could see it hits the high 127.50, so it doesn't exceed the prior day's high of 127.55, and so you wait for it to pull back into the support range. And that's what we did, is said instead of we're going to take the open, we'll take the close, and based on that premise. But that's the kind of things you want to look for when you're trying to find, do I go long here based upon an aggression? But when you look at the overall market, you saw they were going to pull back a little bit because it was starting to extend, and then they pulled back, and then they try to fill that a little bit. But I do think if this is going to really rally, this is where it needs to do it, and we'll have a pretty tight stop on it in case it tries to come back and take another test. Keep in mind, any big break of this trend line, like, you could see what we're looking at here. We're going to kind of validate this as a trend, and then a more steeper angle. So we would watch for any break of these angles would really start to negate this trend, or at least you'd have to consider it flattening out and possibly rolling over. But we are in on sell, Jen.